So traditionally, workforce planning has been under the auspices of the Organization Development Department, or HR. But because the workforce is such an enormous percentage of operating costs, it's critical that the CFO gets involved in it. Now, we spoke a little earlier about the factors that influence workforce planning. We spoke about location, the types of employees, robotic process automation, insourcing and outsourcing, and so on. What happens is that the C-suite will have to put together different scenarios or configurations, if you like. So you might choose, we'll use insourcing here, we'll use robotic automation there, and so on. And you'll end up with a number of different possible scenarios. The role of the CFO is very clear. The CFO has to say what value does each of those scenarios deliver so that you can choose the scenario that delivers the greatest value to the organization. So in workforce planning, modern workforce planning anyway, that is the role of the CFO. So the CFO will need to answer three basic questions about the chosen configuration of the workforce. The first is going to be what level of investment is going to be required. Secondly, what is the impact of that configuration going to be on the product and service margins? And thirdly, what is the change of employee numbers going to do to the operating margins? Those are the three questions that the CFO is going to need to be able to answer to the rest of the board. So workforce planning is quite a data-hungry process. Typically, you're going to be looking at data from your annual budgeting process, but you're going to need much richer data than that. For example, you're going to want data from your HRIS, which means you're going to be looking at salaries, benefits, national insurance, and so on. If you have that kind of data available within your workforce plan, that is going to allow you to do real-time comparisons looking at variances between budget and actual throughout the year, which is obviously a huge advantage. If in addition to that, you can start introducing data from your recruitment process and from your training, etc., into your workforce plan, you can then start looking at what is the actual impact of using FTEs versus contingency workers and make adjustments to your workforce plan in real time. In terms of the technology that you need, we've already spoken about the importance of having something that allows you to integrate data from many sources. So that would be your number one criteria. Does the platform allow you to easily import data from your HRIS, from your training, your recruitment, and all of your other HRIS systems? Secondly, you're going to be looking for a platform which allows you to automate, because there's quite a bit of repetitive tasks that goes into the workforce planning situation, especially if you're going to be wanting to do real-time scenario planning. You're going to want to repeat with that option, repeat with that option. Of course, there are going to be people who would prefer to do the process using spreadsheets and data cubes in a more traditional way. I guess the disadvantages of doing that is that it's going to take much longer to integrate the data. It's going to be somewhat harder to automate the process. And thirdly, errors are likely to creep in. So it's okay, but bear in mind that you do lose a lot of the advantages that come from having an automated, integrated platform. So we've already spoken about a number of the benefits of integrated and automated workforce planning, but two in particular stand out for me. The first one is being able to have much greater insight if you're performing a workforce transformation. For example, if you're streamlining your workforce, typically this is done top-down, which means that you'll start from the top and work your way downwards, which ends up destroying more value than it actually creates. If you use effective workforce planning, you'll be able to test scenarios and look at the impact of streamlining at different points so that you can see what is the impact on employee performance, what is the impact of span of control. So that's the first major benefit, is going to be about insight. Secondly, companies that use effective workforce planning are able to generate far greater value from their workforces at a much lower cost. That means there's a tremendous competitive advantage. So I'd say those are the two key advantages that come from effective workforce planning. It's going to be insight and competitive advantage.